You guys have questions. I have answers. Hopefully they match up. Let's do it. Today's video is brought to you by the BPS Customs merchandise store. Now, we haven't really pushed the merch store recently just because I haven't had a whole lot of fresh designs, but this one is pretty sick. I made it myself. It's available now for a limited time. It comes in black or white or a couple different color crazy gradients. So hopefully there is something that fits your style. Remember to order one size up. They do run a little bit small, but they are available at the link down below in the video description in any one of these cool styles. Check them out, bpscustoms.com. So I polled you guys on Twitter and on the YouTube community page. I picked the 10 best / most interesting questions that I found there, and these are the answers to those questions. First question is from Adam Patrick Murray. You guys might know him from PC World. He asks, what kind of content do you wish you saw more of on YouTube, PC specifically, but can non-PC related as well? Adam, this question is nonsensical and you need to go back to school to learn how to type properly. But there actually is an answer to this, and I do wish that I saw more science content on YouTube just in general. I'm a big fan of channels like Mark Rober, who are putting science out there with an entertainment component to it. It kind of goes back to my childhood when I watched programs like Mr. Wizard and then Bill Nye the Science Guy. I've always been a science person. I like the explanations behind things. So if we could tie that into PCs and technology, how these technologies actually work on a fundamental level and how science influences developments and things that we might see in the market, I think that would be pretty cool. And also, who doesn't like watching, things blow up and stuff? Second question is from Danny. Danny says, hey Brian, loving the content this year. What are your goals for the channel in 2023? Any brands or companies you aren't currently working with that you'd be interested in? Also, when can I get a run at the Nissan? Well, as far as that last part of the question, you can't. It's in storage right now. That's the only reason, because otherwise, sure, you come over and drive it. But thank you very much for your question. So brands that I haven't worked with that I'd like to, I think I'd like to branch out into non-PC companies and kind of help tie their brands and their products into technology in general, and maybe do some kind of collaborations where we discuss the computing elements of whatever product they happen to be developing. Automobiles is a very clear example of how this might work. Obviously, cars are now full of computers, and how does that exactly work? How do the computers talk to each other? What kind of hardware is being used in these machines? So that I think would be pretty fun. I don't foresee that really coming in 2023. I'm not really pushing for that. I'm not reaching out to any brands for that. But as far as what the goals are for this year, honestly, last year was a really down year. For not only for me, but for everybody. Views were down, engagement was down, interest was down. I'd like to just kind of steer the ship in the other direction, and hopefully things start moving in a little bit of a more positive direction. That's probably just the goal. I just want to get a little bit better each time. Every video I want to be a little more entertaining or a little more informative. No specific goals or targets that I'm looking to hit. Question 3 comes from Jake Abdallah. He asks, how many basic lands you running in a typical draft? And as a former Magic the Gathering professional, I think my opinion here carries a lot of weight. So I'm going to say 17. You need 17 lands in your typical draft, sometimes less, sometimes maybe one more, but never more than 18. And sometimes maybe 16, but usually 17. 17 is a good number. Shoot for that. Question 4, I think we're on 4. Thrasher Escapes asks, with all the talk on poor 4000, 7000 series GPU pricing, what do you think a reasonable price for each of the current available GPUs would be? How long might it be until discounts happen on cards that aren't flying off shelves? Will true budget GPUs even launch in 2023? I'm going to answer the last part of that question first. It's my belief that we will see some lower end cards from both companies coming in 2023. Of course, I'm not really at liberty to discuss any information that I might have about any of those products, but I don't think that I have gotten any. So this is just speculation at this point. I think we'll see some lower end stuff coming pretty soon. Now, as far as what the right prices are, that's super hard to say. Obviously, you can't keep the same price for the same tier of product forever. That's just not the way economics works. So even if we're just addressing the prices according to inflation, I think that would probably be a better idea than just random giant price leaps. For instance, you know, we'll talk about the RTX 4080 and why it was such why it was panned so universally among reviewers was largely because of the price. $1,200 for an 80 series card seems honestly pretty crazy. You know, the 3080 was what, $700? I think even if the 4080 was maybe $800, $850, I think that would be within reason. It's a very powerful piece of hardware. I don't anticipate that we're going to be able to see $700 80 series cards really ever again moving forward, but jumping all the way up to $1,200 sets a really poor baseline for everybody. Expectations now are that that's what we're going to see, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to pay that. These cards are not selling, and I think that the price is the biggest reason why. So, you know, it's hard to put an exact target on what the prices, quote unquote, should be, but if you saw the 4080 come out at $800, I think it would sell a lot. The 7000 series, I don't think their pricing is quite as far off, but maybe knock $100 off of each of the 7900 cards, and I think that would probably be the sweet spot. Next one, Rory O'Donnell. Why do we still have front panel connectors in 2023 and not a better solution? It's just the way you have to build things. The cases have a button on them that is separate from the motherboard. So until we see a product come out that is an integrated case and motherboard that can potentially have that wiring already in place, you have to connect the case to the motherboard somehow. And unless there's some kind of weird wireless solution, that's it. Front panel connectors, you're gonna have to deal with them. We have a few more questions to answer here, but I wanted to throw it over to me over at the studio set, because I wanted to talk to you guys about a product that came in that's pretty cool and I haven't had a chance to show anybody yet. So take it away, me.
Thanks, Brian, and may I say you're looking quite handsome. Before you fast forward through this, it's not an ad. This is not a sponsored placement. They didn't pay for this at all, but Welov, the company that makes this S30 vacuum, which certainly reminds you somewhat of the Dyson handheld that everybody has, including myself upstairs. They sent me over this, and I've been using it in the basement here in my office for probably a couple months now, and it's just been great. It's like a discount Dyson. You could buy it on Amazon. I'll leave it linked down below if you guys want to check it out. I just wanted to give them a shout out because they sent this to me for free without any real expectation I was going to put it in a video. I'm a PC channel. I don't review vacuums, but it's been pretty great. It comes with these different accessories. I do have one qualm though, that the battery itself is down below the handle and you can't charge this without detaching the battery. That kind of sucks. You can't just like throw it on the wall and have it charge. But other than that, it's honestly been almost as good as my Dyson for like half the price or something like that. And it's cool looking and it's blue. So if you dig vacuums, check out the S30. I'll leave it linked down below. Thank you to Welov for sending this for no real reason. So back to the questions.
Anna is up next. Anna from Fractal Design. What has been the highlight of your YouTube career? What's been the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is pretty easy. The growth over the past few years has been not only stagnant, but kind of negative, and view counts have been significantly declining. So again, like I mentioned earlier, just trying to keep with it, trying to put out interesting content, and trying to stay motivated when the views and engagement isn't there is absolutely the hardest challenge. Just because, you know, who am I making content for if nobody's watching? And what's the point? So I kind of have to find it, kind of go back to the beginning of the channel when you're making content for literally nobody's watching. And you have to rediscover that same kind of motivation and passion for what you're doing in order to keep moving forward. So that's definitely been the biggest challenge. Now, as far as highlights go, I don't know that I necessarily have a single video or moment that really sticks out to me. I've had a couple videos kind of take off and go viral, and that happens to, you know, a lot of channels. So I don't know that necessarily would be anything like that. It probably is the fact that I'm able to dedicate time to working with people that I really enjoy working with and on projects that I have a passion for. YouTube, as you guys may or may not know, is not my full-time job. I have a 9 to 5. So you know, doing that work is sometimes pretty monotonous and not as rewarding. YouTube kind of gives me an outlet to do what I want to do for people that are enjoying watching me do it. And that in and of itself is pretty special. I do like the opportunities that I have to travel, see people at trade shows, make friends in the industry, and kind of learn from everybody. So a single highlight is really hard to say. I don't know that there really is one, but being on YouTube and doing these videos has given me the opportunity to grow as a person and challenge myself in different ways, in ways that I enjoy. So I hope that is a good answer for you. Moving over to YouTube comments now. We've got a question from Tensa Zangetsu 1200. Thanks for that video on getting an in-case display. It really inspired me and I ended up doing it myself. As for our question, what is the best looking Founders/reference GPU in your opinion, either NVIDIA or AMD, or even old school ones like ATI and 3DFX? It's interesting you mentioned ATI 3DFX. I mean, I was around and did play with that hardware, but I don't think those cards were particularly good looking. They have a bit of nostalgia, sure, but I think the best looking reference Founders cards, I have a couple of them. So the first one I would think to say would be the GTX 770 and 970. Not the best performing cards, often pretty loud and pretty hot, but just the way they looked with that cool window and the silver accents and very basic and clean design, that kind of speaks to me. I like those. I have a soft spot for the Vega Frontier Edition card because it's the only blue and yellow GPU that I've ever seen, and it looks pretty crazy, even though I never actually got to own one. And then the last one would be the Intel Arc cards, the Intel A770 LE with like the blue light up lights around the edges. Again, very simple, very clean design, very effective design, and small. So it looks almost kind of like the old EVGA 900 series cards. 2 fans, relatively compact, 2 slots, and very clean and minimal. And I really like that. Forked Tail Ed 3vol82 says, what's your favorite piece of hardware that you have the fondest memories with? I think that the fondest memories that I have probably wouldn't be from anything recent. I kind of go through a lot of hardware pretty quickly here. New builds, new hardware kind of gets swapped in and out all the time. I think if I were to call back to something that I have the fondest memories with, it's probably one of, if not the first computers that I ever owned. We owned it as a family when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, and it was just like a Pentium 60 machine. So that tells you how old I am. But it was something that my brother and I and some friends would sit around and play TIE Fighter on, as well as games like Myst and Return to Zork, stuff like that. So though that PC was a fixture in our living room for quite a number of years, and I have fond memories of the time spent with it with friends and family, and I think that system in and of itself, even though there was nothing special at all about it, it was like a, I don't know, compact machine or something like that. I think that is probably the single piece of hardware that I might have the quote-unquote most fondness for. All right, coming up on the last two. Staditionalist, okay. Staditionalist says, what happened to your love for kamikaze fast RC cards, and what's your latest non-PC related hobby? So nothing has really happened to my love for those cars. I have a pretty big collection of RCs, and I love building them, racing them, messing around with them. For this Christmas, my brother got me an RC car, a mini Losi JRX2, and I've just been kind of ripping that around the house a bunch and scaring my cats. So I just kind of stopped making content on it because I think it was perhaps detracting from the main point of this channel and the main focus of what I'm trying to do here. So while there were certainly a lot of people that really enjoyed that stuff, there were also others that were like, what am I watching? Why am I subscribed to this channel? It's going to be talking about RC cars. So I kind of really stopped talking about it on here and on social media. So that doesn't mean that I stopped loving using them. What's wrong with me? That doesn't mean that I stopped using them or stopped enjoying building them or anything like that. It's just that I don't really share that anymore. But yeah, Kamikaze Fast RC cars are pretty wild. All right, last one. Kanza, 1989. Who do you have more faith in to save the state of the GPU market, Intel or AMD, and why? I think there's two ways you could look at this. One is, who is the best chance to become a giant player versus NVIDIA? Who has the best chance to maybe make the next breakthrough, or, you know, develop their technologies in a way that's competitive with who is undoubtedly the big dog in that arena right now? And I think the answer to that is Intel. And the reason for that is they're just kind of getting started on this journey. They have an enormous amount of engineering muscle behind them, money to spend, facilities. They have their own fab. If they wanted to push further into this market, I would imagine that in the next few years, they have the ability to do so. I don't know how high end they want to go with their products, but if they wanted to compete with a 4090, they probably could. How long that might take, I don't really know, but I think that if they really focused on it, they could probably make a pretty compelling product for the high end. AMD, I think if you're talking short term, AMD is the answer, because obviously they've been around for quite a long time and they make products that are well known and fairly reliable and widespread. So if you want to take the focus off of NVIDIA and put it onto any one company right now, it's got to be AMD. There's really no other choice. Intel is just still too small. But I think in the future, that might flip-flop. I don't really know. Who knows? Who knows?
So that's it for this impromptu Q&A video, guys. If you liked this format, you want to see more of it, let me know down below in the comments, or maybe leave me a question there as well. I don't want to rip off what Paul does every month with his Probing Paul section, but maybe we'll do one every once in a while if it's popular with you guys. Just make sure to let me know. Get subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. More stuff obviously coming soon. Probably no more vacuum content, so you don't have to worry about that. But thanks so much for watching and submitting your questions, and I'll see you next time.